So many owners, just like you, continue to look at their bank account each and every month and they see it either flat or going down, but yet their visits are either the same or higher. And then they scratch their head and they say, well, it just must be decreased reimbursement by the insurance carriers, or maybe it's a Medicare cut. Yes, it is. In part, it's in fraction. Those are things that are impacting your collections. But that's not the full scope and breadth of what's going on in the practice, in my experience. I get calls from owners all around the country, and I have had to sit down through multiple conversations, multiple interviews with our billing team and our insurance verification team, and many, many different practice owners just like you across the country to discover that there are actually 8 different things that could be possibly affecting your reimbursement. And there are definitely 5 to 6 solutions that you could take advantage of for yourself. I'm going to cover a few of those right now, and I'm going to just do some broad strokes from the high level because honestly, it's not just your insurance carriers cutting reimbursement. And I'm not saying it's not, but it's not the only reason. So let's go ahead and look at some of these challenges. I don't see things in life as a problem, as you know. I see them as challenges for us to meet. So the first challenge I think we have to understand that's working against us is the MPPR. And you all know that in Medicare, and now what you might not have noticed is that all the major carriers have embraced the MPPR system of reducing reimbursement. First code will often be the highest reimbursed code, and they'll pay that at 100%. The second code, per your fee schedule, of course. The second code, they'll reduce it about 25%, and then the next code about 50%, and so on. So whether you're doing therapeutic exercise times 4 or you're spreading the codes around, you can't escape this MPPR system of reduction. And unfortunately, this is now something that all of our major carriers are now employing. And that, in fact, is not a biller issue. That's actually a reimbursement issue. And you may not know about that until hearing it just now, but it is slowly but surely chipping away at your reimbursement. The next thing I think is really important to bring up is the diagnosis specificity or the diagnosed level of involvement. We have a huge billing company. We exclusively do billing for physical therapy providers around the country. And oftentimes we'll see EOBs come back with, denials. And we wonder, why is this denied? This is completely appropriate. Well, lo and behold, we have to educate and coach the therapist to have a higher level diagnosis code, a higher degree of specificity or involvement to cover the CPT codes of care that they're applying. These insurance companies are looking for any reason why not to pay us. And they're going to look at that and say, oh, pain of the knee, too low, not specific enough. We're not covering that gait dysfunction, that 97116. I'm just making this up, of course. But this is what's happening. They're going to find any reason to deny you payment. Now, you can appeal it and get it paid, but it just prolongs your cash flow. And sometimes you have to add a modifier, or you just resubmit with a higher diagnosis code. There are remedies, but this is just a game the insurance companies are playing not to pay for the services we're providing as therapists. There are also an increased number of flat rate payers that we have to be aware of. Where I would how I would go about approaching that, rather, is I would look at each and every one of my payers, and I would look at what my cost is to provide a service, a visit session, I should say. If my cost of my therapist is $38 an hour or a visit, however you're doing it, normally an hour because they're salaried, and then I have to add all the indirect costs, which is probably another $10 to $15, I add that to it. If in fact my flat rate payer is only paying $50 a visit or $45 a visit, if it's the same or less than what your cost per session is, then I would not take that payer. I would get rid of that payer. As a matter of fact, I look for all of my reimbursement to be at least $15 over my cost. So for those of you in different parts of the country who can afford to be that stringent, I wouldn't accept anybody paying me less than $15 over my cost. For many, many of you, almost all of you throughout the United States, don't accept anyone who's paying you under cost. There's no amount of volume that's going to make up for the decreased reimbursement that's under cost. That's a game we play in our head. That's not going to happen. Or we'll tell ourselves, hey, I'll just take these low payers and I'll lose money on them, but they'll be my loss leader so I can make more reimbursement on the other part of the plan. I've never seen that work out. I've never seen the doctor say, oh, because you're taking this garbage plan of Blue Cross or Cigna or Aetna or whomever, I'm going to give you all the high paying people of that plan. They don't think like that. They just send them around to whoever's going to take them. Chances are you're probably the only one in town taking the lowest reimbursed payers, and they're taking advantage of that because you're able to see their patients for them, which is good in that sense. Another thing to know about administratively that's reducing your reimbursement is sequestration. It's a 2% reduction of what we're getting paid for the services we're providing, so-called for the Medicare Advantage plans to get compensated for their administrative costs, their additional administrative overhead. Give me a break. What do you mean additional administrative overhead? We have administrative overhead. Where are we going to get our 2% from if you're taking it from the provider? This is just, again, another one of the things that just drives me crazy with these insurance companies, in my opinion, just a corrupt, abusive way in which they treat us as providers, in my opinion. I think with these Medicare Advantage plans, depending on what the ultimate reimbursement is, they are worth keeping, and there is going to be a volume of Medicare age patients. As you know, we're in an aging population in this country. So by all means, look at that critically, but just know that that's also chipping away at your monthly bank account, at your deposits. It's not just your clinicians or your billing team. I mean, that's where everybody wants to go, but honestly, the system has some of these cuts baked into it. If you're a MIPS or you're required to do MIPS, if you're a MIPS provider required to do MIPS and you don't, just be prepared. The upcoming year, they're going to claw that back. So what are some solutions to some of these things? Because I haven't even touched on the clinical side of things. I just touched on the administrative side of things. Honestly, without dealing with the clinician and the clinical training and education, there's very little that can be done inside your office other than making a business decision. Low rate payers that aren't covering my costs, I'm not going to see them anymore. I'm going to look at my schedule and say, am I in the ideal schedule for treating this public that I'm treating, given the reimbursement I'm being paid? Is it better for me to see a patient every 30 minutes and have a team approach and keep them 55 to 65 minutes and, make sure that I have a red team, green team, blue team with a PT1, PT2, PTA, and tech. PT1, PT2, PTA, and tech. Is that going to help you? There are multiple things that you can do with the schedule. Is it ideal to have a 40-minute schedule or 45-minute schedule for the public that you're servicing? You literally have to look at that very critically. Knowing the system and knowing what you can do about it is what's going to absolutely help you fight against this atrocious reduction in reimbursement. Education of your therapist is going to include AMA versus Medicare rule training, productivity training. How do I optimize my time and give the kitchen sink? Give an abundance of care with each and every session. Efficiency training through my scheduling. Am I on the right schedule? Is it a 40-minute schedule, a 45-minute schedule, or should I see them every 30 minutes and keep them 55 to 65 minutes? How can I manage that and still remain ethical and above board with the administration of our clinical care? Nothing should go into the gray area. There are definitely 4 basic principles you can learn on how to do that schedule and get your direct procedural codes in. A revenue analysis can be done. A revenue analysis. Our billing group and our billing team managers will do revenue analysis and provide you with the data to say, are you aware that this therapist B is just doing therapeutic exercise times 4 on every patient? Are you aware that they're selecting these very low reimbursed codes when they're actually providing the same high-level care as somebody else? What's the difference? What's the calculation here? What is the thought process between these 2 different therapists? Why is one thinking about utilizing these procedural codes when another one's utilizing these codes pretty much for the same condition, for the same intended outcome? Education, education, education. If you can get your therapist educated on proper code utilization for what they're treating, if you can have them use the AMA rules to their advantage over the Medicare 8 to 23-minute rule, if you can have the ideal schedule and create a greater level of efficiency and see just literally 1 more patient, 2 more patients a week, it's going to make all the difference in the world. If you can go from 11 visits a day to 12 visits a day per 8-hour a day therapist, makes all the difference in the world, but that requires education. You can meet these challenges and successfully overcome them. That's what we do each and every week with clients all around the country. Clients typically just like you, is we put Meg Academy in with the layer of the administrative services and billing, and these 2 systems talk, and you're the benefactor of that. So find a way to do a revenue analysis, set up your teams, create the ideal schedule, train and coach your therapist, eliminate the low reimbursed payers, and most of all, institute 20 to 25% of your overall monthly business as cash-based services, and you will see your average reimbursement go up per visit, and your monthly bank account will continue to grow and expand because you're providing a higher level care, a higher level of exchange and abundance, and you're getting paid more appropriately because you're smarter about your approach.